everyone, good afternoon. I'm Victoria Brown. I'm an artist and I'm going to deliver this afternoon's Crafternoon session. This is I think the 7th video we've done now, so I've taken you through quite a lot of different techniques and shared my projects with you. And today we're going to be looking at painting patterns and drawing patterns, and thinking of where you can find ideas and inspiration for some new paintings and drawings whilst you're at home. So I mentioned last week about my family's connection to the lace industry. My family were lace manufacturers. My great-grandfather started his lace factory in Draycott between Derby and Nottingham, and he started with 6 sleevers lace machines in Victoria Mill. And I decided a few years ago to do a project based on that, to find out more about the industry and piece together the facts, and to celebrate really what an incredible industry it was in the region. Lace was made in Derby, Long Eaton, Draycott, lots of villages and towns between Derby and Nottingham. So it was a huge influence to this region, and it's always been a big influence to my art and my paintings. I love detail, I love pattern, I love the use of floral motifs and things from nature within my work. And I think a little girl sitting at the kitchen table many years ago now, I used to have bags of lace my father used to bring back, and I used to draw, paint and make things out of it. So I think that's where it possibly all came from. So with the Losing Lace project, I got Arts Council funding to explore this further, to create 20 paintings of my own inspired by the old lace pattern books, which I think are wonderful, as well as meeting people and gathering stories and learning about the industry and the connections people have with it, and also collecting the artefacts that belong to the industry, because I didn't want all this to disappear. I wanted to sort of try and explore it and create a legacy. So the Losing Lace project started, and it was really visiting the factory sites that my family had actually been involved in. My father, Barry Stocks, eventually became a director at Birkin and Company, which is a really big Nottingham lace manufacturer, and that was all from originally my grandfather starting his business at Draycott Mill, Victoria Mill in Draycott, and then moving on to Draycott Mill. So that's really the source of my inspiration. So we're going to have a look. I'm going to show you some of my larger paintings. I know some of you that come to my workshops, I'm always looking in some of my paintings. I've always got something under my arm to show you, but I've got a few in my studio that I really couldn't get through the doors of Artcore and the doors of the residential homes that we come to. So today I thought it was an opportunity to show you some of my really large lace paintings. And then we're going to have a go at looking at different experimental ways that you can play with design and patterns and lace and textiles, and just get inspiration for your own artwork whilst you're stuck at home. So hopefully you can, I believe you're all artists, and you know that I always say that. This will be a project that you can maybe start this week. I hope it'll give you inspiration. So if I try and take you around my studio for a minute, I can show you my paintings. Okay. So we'll start over here. Oh, sorry, wrong way around. So this is one of my paintings called Evergreen, and this was inspired one of the large lace pattern books my father gave me. I'm not sure the origin of the lace designs, but it just struck me, this beautiful flower, and then lots of the fine delicate net. So I used oil paints, and I used gold paint and gold leaf in there. I almost lose myself in sort of a meditative sort of state, actually creating these little holes and patterns in the net. The idea of the gold shining through the holes is in celebration to the industry and to the beautiful designs. This is another one, Kyoto. I've decided to use some pinks and greens within that because I love the floral motif. I called it Kyoto because it makes me think of Japanese art, with the cherry blossom trees just there. As you know, I love cherry blossom, so I decided to call it that. I love the spider's web sort of design within that as well, so I adapted it and changed it too. So that was that one. These are the lace pattern books that I have been given. This was a Thomas Stocks lace pattern book, and as you can see, a lot of the patterns are actually inspired by flowers and nature. This is a 1930s pattern book, and get a lot of inspiration from these. There's a lot of beautiful colours, stunning designs, so these can always be a starting point of an idea for a new piece of work. So I can recognise some of these that I've used already, and sometimes not just floral motifs, they actually used animal figures within it, repeating patterns of animal figures. We've got horses, cats, all sorts of fish, all sorts of things. So you don't have to be restricted to looking at just flowers and leaves and things. There's a beautiful thistle there. So these are all really a source of my inspiration, and there's one here. This is a 1913 pattern book with some of my favourite designs within this one. That's a beautiful one there, sort of fan shapes, and there's a really delicate fine net there. This one's a beautiful one as well, really, really delicate leaf patterns there. You can see the structure of leaves within that, the veins on a leaf, and then the flowers in the foreground, which is beautiful. This is one of my favourite ones. This painting's actually in my lounge. I expanded this and did one of the really large paintings of that. I almost think it's like a War of the Worlds type of image, but this is you know, so early on in 1900s. It's quite incredible, really. And there's another one here that I've used in one of my paintings that I've got across the room, which I call Magenta Bud. So a lot of these laces were actually used for garments in the industry my family were involved in. So there's my Magenta Bud painting. I decided to use the crimson magenta colour because I absolutely love that rich colour. I thought it was quite regal and celebratory with the gold, so I kept those colours, and I just worked the different tones to try and make it look 3D. Oh yes, Anne says she sees spiders. Yes, I think you can see all sorts of things in there, can't you? I mean, I think these shapes down here, sometimes I look and think they look quite bat-like, like creatures, but everybody sees something different in them. Yes, I can certainly see spiders in there too. So there's another one here. This is the same sort of flower motif, but I've expanded it even further. And oh, somebody said they remind me of African rattles. Well, let me know what they are. That's interesting. Send us some pictures because I've not encountered them before. I'd love to see them. So this one here is the expanded pattern, and I've actually laid on layers of lace collaged on top of it as well, because I like to sometimes incorporate that. Oh yes, Anne says it's the beaded rattles. I know what you mean. Yes, I do know what you mean now. Yes, they do actually, don't they? The patterns on those. I can see where you're getting that from now. It's incredible. Everybody sees different things in your artwork, and it's great actually when you exhibit, because people open your eyes to something new that they can see. So this is one of the Sunset series within the Losing Lace project. This is the Victoria Mill, and I was thinking about the sunset with the industry. You know, it's actually finished now. It's all disappeared. This is actually an apartment block now. It's people live within this great big building. So it was sort of, I wanted to create something as a to reflect the loss and the end of the industry. So hence the sunset. But this is actually painted on here. So I painted a band of black across the painting, and then with a very fine brush I painted on top of it to create the pattern. So that's a different way of doing it. And then I've actually collaged a few fragments of lace to try and signify the loss of the industry. So those are some of my paintings. Just get you back on here. Try and do this without losing you. There we go. Hopefully that's it now. Can you see me? That's great. So yes, that's where I get my inspiration from and how I've developed my lace work and my lace patterns. And what I'm always talking about is everybody is an artist, and often when you go to a gallery you don't see the actual process behind the paintings and the work. So I hope to share my processes with you and the different techniques and explorations that I have, and hopefully you might get some ideas, because I think the idea is everybody creating their own art and experimenting to actually do something they enjoy, and then I think that's a reflection of yourself within the work, which I think is really good. So, Ray says that he lives down the road from Victoria Mill and his daughter lives in the mill. Oh, fantastic, Ray. That's a coincidence. Did you recognise it straight away? That's fantastic. That's lovely. I did a project in the school at the same time as well, and the children were really excited because they could see the mill out of their bedroom window. It's such an iconic building within the town. It's just absolutely wonderful. Anne's asked me, do I make my own lace for my works? Yes, I do. I have attempted it. I've had a very good teacher, Louise West. She's a lace designer and bobbin lace maker. As I showed you in the painting behind me, I've used manufactured lace that was made on machines with that one. But I was aware that that really isn't a connection to my family's industry anymore, because that was long gone. So, and I don't want to cut up precious pieces of their lace. So I decided to make some. Louise persuaded me, and I applied for the Margaret Type bursary, which is a bursary that's available to people if you wanted to learn how to make lace or develop a project to make lace. So if anybody wants to know about that, I can tell you about it, and you can maybe have a go at it yourself. I can do quite a long. I've got a long piece on my pillow at the moment, but unfortunately I've not actually worked on it for the past year or so. But I've promised Louise I'll come back to her classes, because it's something that I do really enjoy, and I think it really helped my painting, because once I started making the lace by hand I understood the structure of it a lot more, so I think my painting became more accurate. So yes, Anne says, shall we? I think we should do an a post-COVID exhibition. Well, that's a really good idea. I'd love to see your work in it if you can do some too. So I'll just show you a few of the processes and the playful kind of things I did before I started doing the paintings. On my easel here I've got one of the lace patterns from Birkin and Company, which was one of the companies that my father worked with till he was retired. He had a factory in Borrowash and one in Nottingham and Long Eaton. So this is one of their patterns. But I'll just show you, if you've got any lace at home or any textured textiles at home, you can actually do some, start with some artwork, some experimental things. So here you can see I've just started to actually trace the pattern. Now I always really like to encourage people to draw freehand and just have a go. So it's really unusual for me to actually demonstrate tracing things, but actually I think if you trace the pattern, you actually get to know it really well, and I think it's quite enjoyable and satisfying if you don't feel super confident with drawing initially. But so that's one way of doing it, is just get started by tracing it. If you haven't got any tracing paper at home, get some greaseproof paper, because that should work just as well. So once you've done that, I'm going to do some rubbing, and my dad used to have this in his pocket. I remember him having it in his pocket when I was a little girl, and I used to wonder what it was. But what he did was take rubbings from the machines because of the patterns, because in those days they didn't have digital cameras and things to take photos of the lace and things. So when I just do some experimental work, just lay your tracing paper over the pattern. It is easier when you do it on a flat surface. It's just I'm trying to show you how to do it. But the important thing is to try and keep it in the same place so it doesn't move. So sometimes when we're doing it in a workshop, we tape it down on top of the lace onto the table with some masking tape, which is a really good idea. But you can get the idea. So if we just keep rubbing the wax onto the page, then you actually get some nice pattern coming up, which can be a starting point for some artwork. So I'll take it off there and just show you. So there you go. So you've got some nice pattern there that you could actually do some work from. I've got a whole stack of them here. So I did a little activity where we used the lace rubbings with bits of the jacquard card and pictures of the mill and things to do some collage. But you can actually build up a whole stack of rubbings that you could use in your collage activities. And there's you can always put a colour wash over the top of it. So there's one here where I've just washed a bit of colour over the top of it, so that can be collaged as well. So that's one possibility of things you can use. So then, yeah, it's true, and you can put more pressure on when it's flat. It's a lot easier when it's flat, and you do get some really good patterns. So have a go with that. The other thing that I thought is a good idea is to do little sketches. If you just get a tiny little pieces of paper, you can actually do some nice felt tip drawings of some lace, or if it's just some fabric that you like. I mean, I've just got a pile of fabric here. When I've got a favourite top or something and it's got holes in it, it's all worn out, I often cut my favourite things up, because if I love the design on there, any little bit of a motif can be a starting point, or the colours that you like, just pick out a little bit of it. There's a beautiful bit of African fabric here. My daughter bought me a lovely bag from Africa. Unfortunately the zip broke and I didn't want to throw the fabric away, so I've used this for collage and things. But this would be a nice starting point, a little bit of this design yeah. So that's another option. So lots of different material, or have a look in your drawers if you've got any little bits of wrapping paper. They might be a sort of patterns for you. So have a little experiment at drawing them first and trying to draw them freehand rather than tracing, because everybody can draw. It's just looking and just trying to draw what you see. It doesn't have to be exact, it doesn't have to be accurate. In fact, one good way of doing a drawing activity is to close your eyes and start drawing when you, rather than looking at something. Just try and memorise it. So there's no right or wrong way of doing it. But I've had a go on post-it notes. So have a go at doing some designs on a post-it note, playing with some of the motifs that you might find interesting. So I've got a spiral motif there, I've got a leaf motif. So what else have I got? I've got a daisy motif. This takes me back to the days when I was a little girl. Obviously I was influenced by textiles because I used to have drawing books, and on every page I used to draw and design a rug. I used to do rug designs, so it sort of takes me back. I do wonder one day whether I'll end up designing rugs. I don't know, who knows. So yeah, so just get a little post-it note, get a pen, just start doodling. You can look at a real flower or a flower from a magazine or a leaf or whatever motif, and just start drawing. It's I've started from the centre in this flower here, and I've just gone out and just build on it. Now you don't have to copy exactly. Once you've made a start, you can take your picture wherever you want it to go. You can add little bits, you can leave bits out, you can experiment. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. So just let yourself be taken over by the pen and just play. And some of them you'll really like and some of them you won't. So but it's just allowing yourself to be playful, and you might actually surprise yourself with one of these designs. So that's an idea of getting your designs together. And if you've got children at home, it's a great activity to do, and you could even fill a whole wall with post-it notes, designs that they could do. So that's another activity. Something else that you could possibly do is wax resist painting. So Karen says she'd never thought of tracing patterns off material. Yes, it's a great idea. It's a great starting point, and it's sort of holding on to parts of your memories, isn't it? Old clothes that you have or whatever, favourite designs. It's sort of a part of you and your history. So go for it. And sometimes the colours are just stunning that you could use. So I've got this piece of paper here, and I've actually tried to draw a pattern on here with a wax candle. So you can see I've got a candle here left over from Christmas, found in my drawer, which is quite a handy size actually. So I've actually tried to draw a lace pattern on here with it. I'll put a little bit more detail on. You won't be able to see anything on that page hopefully, but it's just like magic, which is just so exciting for adults and for children. So if I get my painting tin, this is a bit like the magic painting books that I used to have when I was a child. Did anybody else have a magic painting box in the past? They were such fun. You just applied water and then a picture used to appear. So this is actually sort of creating your own. So hopefully we will see. I've got some watercolour paint here, so just a nice thin wash over the top, and hopefully a pattern will appear. So it's amazing what you can do with candles that are left over from Christmas. There we go. It's dripping down the page a little bit, but I quite like that. So can you see that? It's come through, hasn't it, quite well. So that's just another playful idea of what you could do with just watercolour paints in a tin. You could use watered down acrylic paints if you want, or inks. So have a go with that. So that's another thing that I use. What I thought I'd do now is to show you the kind of the process that I use once I get onto painting my pictures. So be playful with the designs. I mean, if I just show you how much work sort of I put into it. I've got sketchbooks full of like experimentations. and I've even, since this project, I've moved on. I'm actually developing another project, and these are all my different experimentations that I've been doing with the patterns. These are the patterns from one of my paintings, and I've been trying out very different ways of working with it. So photocopying as well, photocopying the patterns is quite effective, and using that as collage too, so maybe have a go at that. So if I take this off now, did you manage to see that more closely? Look, so that's just a really simple design I've done, but you can have a go at making something a bit more intricate, but it's quite good fun, especially if you've got children at home with you or grandchildren. So if I show you now, I've actually drawn out a lace pattern that I found in my grandfather's lace pattern book. I've taken some of the bits that I really like, and I've drawn it with some white charcoal here, which I find quite useful. And this is quite a fun process actually, because you can just, I'll take this off now, flown out the way. So if I attach this to here, then hopefully you can see, and I'll do some painting. Can you see that? Hopefully that should be all right. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look. So this is how I sort of get the pattern out. And if there's a little bit you don't like when you're using this white charcoal, you can just simply rub it out. Like that, just like a blackboard really. So you rub it out and think, I don't like that bit, so I'm just going to move that around and change it, wait for it to dry, and then you can draw back onto it. So it's really quite a nice way of starting if you're not super confident, to just start painting without doing anything first. It's a different style of painting that I have, because sometimes I just let myself go to a canvas and just start painting, and sometimes that's a really good way of making a start. If you have no idea what to do, if you just get some paints or some materials in front of you and just start doing something on canvas or paper, and then the creative spirit within you just takes over, and you end up enjoying, you can lose an hour in that process, and that's one way of working which I enjoy. But this I think, because I'm looking at patterns and it's a little bit more technical in some ways, I do like to draw things out first, so it's really up to you what you'd like to do. So this is sort of, I've got it to the stage where usually I like to get a painting to, and I've put a little bit of white acrylic paint on my palette there, and this is just graduate style acrylic paint. You could use gouache, or you could use poster paint, whatever you've got at home, it really doesn't matter. This is actually a canvas board that I've purchased, but you could use some cardboard box that you've painted over, whatever. It can be anything really. So really simply, just I like to just paint out the pattern first. I go over the chalk. I tend to block out the areas first, like this, and then I like to put some shading in there as well. So often I'll just go over, do some shading. You can actually just go over the lines first if you want to. Sometimes I do that as well. There's no right or wrong way of doing this, but if I show you how often I'll just quite loosely go over everything. So we'll just flow around there, around here, and build it up. Just getting the basic design down, and then it might take me, with my oil paintings, it can take me weeks and weeks and weeks, because often I'll do one layer of paint and then I'll wait for it to dry and then come back to it to do another layer. So it can take quite a long time. But with acrylic paints, that dries instantly, so it really doesn't matter how you do it. This reminds me of when I was doing the project. I'd got such a tight deadline to paint 20 large paintings within 9 months, so I was under such pressure to get the paintings done, and my dad had a triple heart bypass at the same time, so it was quite a stressful time. But I did Melbourne Festival, and I asked if I could paint the paintings in the house that I was showing my work in, which was Sharon Brown, the director of the festival. So it takes me back to her kitchen drawing out one of these designs, so people could see the process. But I hope it helps for you to see the actual process, and just how I don't worry about making mistakes, because it can just be painted over. Try not to get things too perfect, just try and get something down initially, and then you can start building up with it. So if I just show you a little bit of the, there's a little bit of black here on my palette as well, so you can actually do some of the shading, so some of the petals and the areas where there's different textures and patterns, you can actually use some grey tones. And I'll put a little bit more grey within here. So you can observe the pattern or observe the fabric and just have a look, see if you can see the shading, if there's any bits that you can pull out. If I just keep trying to fill these bits, because it's black, it's quite nice that the black shows through, which helps you to shade anyway. So you can use your finger to blend these bits like that. Probably do this leaf here as well. So just keep on going and building it up. So this is just really roughly done for you now. Yes, Anne said, I bet the painting supported you through that tough time when my father had his heart bypass. Luckily, yes, he managed to pull through it. It was a tough time, but actually getting up really early in the morning and painting, and then going to the hospital in the afternoon, yeah, it did actually really help me, and I think that's what I'm hoping that you'll get out of this as well. If you get a chance to be creative during this time of lockdown, it's a really stressful time for everybody. I hope that you can get some joy and have some time to spend on being creative and doing new things that you might enjoy. So I just hope that you'll feel that too. Thankfully, yes, my dad's still with us, and at the moment he's doing well, so yeah, it all ended well in the end. Thank you, Anne. So yeah, so you can see how I sort of build up the pattern there, and that will just, the process, if it was oiled, would go on and on and on for a few weeks, and I'd just layer it up and shape it and texture it, and build on it. And then the next stage of what I do is, when the paint is actually dry, I put some gold onto it. You can see the gold dots around the motif behind me, and now I use this, it's gold dust that I use, that I buy from Cornelissen and Sons, and it's a rather wonderful lovely gold powder that you mix with, or I mix it with gum arabic, and then I can apply it onto the painting. So I've mixed some in here. Hopefully it hasn't dried up. So I've got quite a nice consistency there. It's like real alchemy when you're actually mixing it together. So then I actually think about the lace pattern and where the dots will go around the pattern. So these are the holes around the net, so I might just follow the design around and lose myself in the dots. It's my form of meditation. So you can see hopefully how that builds up, and I play about with the intensity of the colour, because sometimes I use really lots of thick gold, and then other times the gold might run out on the brush and will be a lot more faded, but I quite like that effect because it makes it look more 3D. So if I dry my brush off a little bit on a piece of paper, hopefully you can see this here, you just get some faded dots. So it gives you a feeling of fading in the distance and shining in the foreground, so it gives a quite a 3D sort of feel to it. So we can just keep finishing. Let's do some more. Can you see those? I hope you can. So I do spend a lot of time doing these, so this is just really quick, just to show you the basic principles of what I do. Sometimes I use squares as well as the dots. There we go. So that's basically, yeah, it is a bit like the painting behind me. Yeah, it is. So that's just really, it's because I suppose because of the technique that I started using. And then once I have done that and done the layers of oil paint, I'll then think about applying the gold leaf. So the gold leaf comes in little sheets like this. It's 22 karat gold sheets. They are quite expensive, but I do try and use it quite sparingly. You actually apply some of this size, it's called size metal, I think, and you paint this really, it's quite a liquid, it's very watery sort of glue. It's a little bit like the consistency of milk really, and you just apply it to the areas that you want the gold to go onto, and then you stick the gold transfer sheets onto the glue once it's dried for about 15 minutes, and then apply it and pull it off, and you're left with the gold. And you can see the painting behind me, there's some little bits there that are just shining, catching the light a little bit more than the other bits of gold, and that's what I really like to play with, is play with the light and trying to catch it in different ways. So have a, you know, maybe have a go with that. You can buy from craft stores and online, you can buy sheets of leaf metal, which isn't actually gold but it looks gold, and I think that's about £6 for about 10 sheets. So yeah, so maybe get some of that if you want to, or you could use sequins or anything shiny you've got in your cupboards, or old wrapping paper, bits of that cut up. So have a go with that. So then what I would often do as well is get a piece of lace and cut it out and then collage it on top of the lace. So I'll just have a go at doing that now. So I could do with a little bit of maybe have a little bit of this pattern into here, into this leaf. Oh gosh, my scissors aren't very sharp. So we can cut a piece of lace and just apply it one of these places, maybe down here. So you could just add it to there like that. So that would probably be the last part of the process, is applying the lace at the end of it. just giving it a little bit of a finished touch. And I do like it now that I do have little fragments of my own lace that I've made, although Louise and the ladies in the lace class are very kind. They do give me bags of samples that they've made. They're just incredible, that they don't want any more, that I can cut up and put onto my painting. So that's very fortunate. So you can layer it on. So it's your artwork, it's your painting. You can do whatever you like with it. You can apply anything to the surface and use different mixed media. You can mix different things in your paint to create different textures. You could mix sand with a paint, you can mix ash, you can mix all sorts of things. So there's no boundaries really of what you could do. So thinking about patterns further, if you're not really into textiles, but you'd like to sort of work on the pattern theme, I've got this wonderful book here. It's called Lee Dynamic Forms in Nature, and it talks about all the different patterns that you see in nature, in plants, animals, trees, wood, different fibres and things like that. So stones, I think there's patterns in stones. Once you start thinking about patterns, they're just everywhere, and it's fascinating. There's some wood there with all the different patterns on bark. So there's lots of different projects and possibilities. I've got some beautiful shells that I just got in a bowl that were my mum's. Actually, she gave them to me. But there's beautiful patterns on there that you could actually just copy. You could draw, and you could try and recreate just a little bit of that shell as a pattern for a background of another painting or anything. I've got another beautiful shell here with some lines and things, so that could be a source of inspiration, some of those patterns. I've got some beautiful stones here, some speckled, I think it's called obsidian. Is it obsidian moonstone, I think? So that would be quite a nice starting point. And there's a little Dalmatian egg stone here. I think you can see I like dots actually, can't you? Because there's dots and everything. You can see them sort of match the painting in the background, which is quite funny. So also feathers. We live on a farm, and there's some guinea fowl that keep running around the yard. They're such amusing birds. There's lots of them, but they leave their feathers behind. So the patterns on that feather are just stunning, aren't they? The dots. So that would be wonderful to have in one of your paintings. And also there's a beautiful, I think this is a pheasant's feather as well. So patterns from animals too, if you think of, get some pictures up off the internet of tigers or leopards or your favourite animals. That's a great starting point too. So there's all sorts of possibilities for a pattern. Oh, I forgot about this. I've even got a cabbage, which even a cabbage or vegetables that you might have in the fridge. Just interesting patterns with that. There's just so many possibilities. And that could be a whole hour's session, cut a cabbage in half and then try and copy those patterns that nature has created in just the beauty of the inside of a cabbage. So whatever you can find, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it would be really interesting to see any of your art. And yes, it was a great suggestion to have an exhibition at the end of all this crisis when we all managed to get back together again. I'd love to see people's artwork. So I hope this afternoon session has given you some inspiration of a project you could work on this week or over the next few weeks. So please send us pictures of your projects and what you've been doing. I hope it inspires you in some way. So I hope you stay safe and keep painting and drawing and being creative. And I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.